gather the sap, boil the sap into what's known here in Vermont and everywhere else as liquid gold, maple syrup.
Vermont is the largest producer of maple syrup in the United States. Families and small farms are still the maple syrup producers, just like it's always been. Although, over the last 100 years, maple sugar producing has gone through some real changes. Metal buckets replaced wooden ones. Metal tanks replaced hollowed-out logs and barrels for sap storage. Large flat pans replaced the open kettles that were hung over the open fire. Maple syrup was probably first recognized by the Native Americans in the early 1600s. There are many legends as to how they discovered maple syrup. Most likely, it was by eating sweet frozen icicles that formed at the end of a broken twig. We're at the Misty Maples farm with Robert Howergan Sr. and his family. Robert's family has been producing maple sugar for more than 7 generations. In the old days, farmers used oxen and horses to pull wooden sleds through the woods as they collected sap from the maple trees. These days, very few families like the Howergans still use horses, but the soul of the enterprise still remains the same. The sap starts running when the trees begin to awake from their winter dormancy. The days are sunny and the nights are still freezing, usually in late winter, early spring. There's only a small window of opportunity for collecting sap. Once the leaf buds on the trees start to emerge, sugaring season is over. This is the time of the harvest.
So this is our first tree here for tapping. So I'll pop out here with your grandpa. Thank you. So William, Robert, are we ready?
I think we are.
Looks like a grand old tree. How old is she?
Oh, probably 190.
So now what's the first thing we do when we tap
We got
the
a good
tree?
vein here. I think this is where we'll get some sap.
So you're drilling a hole.
Yeah, we're drilling a hole.
How big is that bit?
7/16 in diameter.
Okay. It always has to be exactly 7/16?
No, they've come out recently with a smaller drill, and it's worked out good.
And then you just hammer that in?
Yes.
How many taps will you set in a season?
Oh, we have set as high as 12,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And how many can one tree take?
Oh, it depends on the diameter. We
Uh-huh.
don't like to tap a tree unless it's 12 inches in diameter, and I'll get one.
One. And then this size tree,
Well,
which is
this one
really
here,
big.
Yes, but it's ancient, so we'd give it 1 bucket.
And now we can hang our bucket.
Yeah.
So this is, how many gallons is that bucket?
A 16 quart.
16
now,
quarts.
If you take a careful look, we got
Okay.
the sap coming.
Oh, it's already starting to drip. Oh, I want to taste. It is sweet. So 16 quarts,
Yeah.
4 gallons in one
And,
bucket.
Some people ask about that. I said it's not any different than a person donating blood. They just make a donation of some sap.
How long would it take for this big tree to donate this 16 quarts?
Well, if the weather conditions are good, it'll do it in a single day.
Oh, that fast.
Yeah.
But you have to get here before it starts to overflow.
Yes.
Because it doesn't stop when it touches the top, does it?
No, it depends. And it's so dependent on the weather, it's unreal. Ideal is a wet storm to freeze on the trees, and then it come off the next day, not hold off, and it would gush forth. Because the wind blows, it dries everything out.
Right, I see. Well, Robert Howergan has been collecting the sap from his maple trees for how many years, Robert?
I wasn't born in the sugar house, but right close to it.
So did you put it off as long as you could, or
And Dad didn't like to work alone, so we were 5, 6 years old. We helped.
started to go out?
Yep.
And it was always with horse and sledge and
Yes.
And traditionally, these sugar farmers use the horse and sledge to draw the wagons that pull that hold the big tanks and bring up the men from the sugar house below.
Yes.
And nowadays, more and more motorization's taking place, I suppose, with tractors.
Yes, and of course today they've come up with this plastic tree-to-tree
Oh,
pipeline.
I have seen that in many places.
Yeah.
And but on a big spread like this, which is a couple hundred acres, how many acres do you have here?
I've split it up among my sons. We had 800 acres there.
Beautiful place, so high on the hill, looking over the valley.
Yes.
And what's that? What is that flooded creek down there?
Well, that's Fairfield Creek.
Fairfield Creek. You know, I come from a town called Fairfield. Do you know that?
Well, for your information, this area was settled by people from Fairfield, Connecticut.
Oh, they were? Who?
Yes.
What was the name?
The Northup families. Two or three came up, and that place right over there was where they lived.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting.
My brother owns it now.
So you have personally had 800 acres divided amongst how many sons?
4.
4 sons. So they each got about 200 acres?
Yeah.
And do they all work cooperatively in the dairy business?
2 brothers here are joint, Danny and Robbie.
Uh-huh.
They farm together. The others 2 are independent.
I see.
Yeah.
And you have about 150 head of cattle here, the milk cows?
Oh, I think here 200 milk.
So they're milking 200 cows
Yeah.
in addition to making a couple thousand gallons of syrup. And I can't wait to taste the syrup. Well, you know what I'd like to do, Robert?
No.
I'd like to try.
Well, I'd love to have you.
I've never put a tap in a maple tree before.
Never.
How about this tree up here?
Sure. Never having a chance any younger.
Well, that looks like a nice swollen vein from coming down from that big branch.
Good.
And it looks like somebody already marked a good spot.
Good strong limbs.
Down here, right down, like right here. But it looks like Robert Jr. already marked it. So now I hold this. I can even brace it with my leg, can't I?
There you go.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a nice drill. All the way?
That's good.
Okay. So now I have to hammer in the tap.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So. Now, how far in? Just like that?
Just another tap or 2. There,
Okay.
you got a good ring to
We're
it.
secure. Here's your hammer.
Yeah.
Let me get my bucket. My fingers are starting to freeze, and I'm in 3 layers of down. And let's see, is it going to come?
It's going to make. Oh. Yes, yeah, it's coming.
Here it comes. Oh. Tastes almost like maple syrup. So we need 40 gallons of this
Yes.
for 1 gallon of
Yes.
syrup.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we have a lot more trees to tap. Okay, then this hook's on the rim of the bucket. Yeah, I see. Okay. There, my
Good job.
first tap bucket in a long time.
Yeah.
This tree get one more bucket or not?
No, I think that'll cover for that.
Well, I like that you are nice to your trees.
Oh,
Give them a
thank
few
you.
more years to
Thank
be
you.
prosperous.
Thank you. Actually, I was brought up that way. Dad was conservative like that. This way we were taught.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Kindness. So don't you think we better get to work?
Dad would agree with that.
Let's go. And Robert Senior is around here somewhere. And the horses look like they'd like to get moving.
Yeah.
It takes 50 to 60 cords of wood per season to keep the firebox stoked and the maple syrup boiling.
We're right in the crucial spot. We're evaporating the sap. And Robert Jr. here, the son of William Robert Sr., brother of Daniel, is in charge of this process right this minute. In this room full of steam, the roof is open above, letting the steam out. It's very exciting. What's going on here with all these different tanks and fire and...
The raw sap comes into the upper pan, continuous flow in the upper evaporator pan, which is like a double boiler on your stove, heated by the steam from the pan underneath, and that's wood-fired with a forced air draft.
Let's just look and see that fire. It's a very special shape. It's an arch, isn't it?
Yes. You're running about 1,000 degrees of heat under the pan there. The front pan is a flat pan, and the rear pan has flues, which the fire travels right back through, and there's sap in each flue, and the fire's going right in between them.
And what kind of wood are we burning?
What we have in there today is some maple, some beech, some hemlock.
So everything that's broken or fallen down on the
anything
property?
that gets blown over or is dying. This front pan has 6 different dividers in it, and the sap runs in a continuous flow up one crimp and then back up the next. The holes are like 4 inches high maybe, and the sap just flows around the end of each one. And
but are the levels any lower or higher?
We try to keep it about 1.5 inches deep maybe in the pan.
You told me that you reverse the direction. First it's coming this way.
Okay, about every 3 to 4 hours we switch sides. Like you can just change your plugs around and you reverse the flow of the sap. And you're finishing off pan. After a few hours you'll start to get a buildup of niter, which is a natural nutrient that's in the sap, and it's something that we take out in the filtering process. But if you don't switch sides, you'll get a buildup on your pan and you could eventually burn your pan.
Oh, I see. Well, this is an odd combination. It's a lot of sophistication and then a lot of very primitive things going on here. Don't you think?
A lot of traditional type equipment,
right.
Yes.
40 gallons of sap that go in there.
Yes.
Boil and boil and boil and boil until they reach approximately 1 gallon of syrup.
1 gallon of syrup.
And there seems to be a lot of gauges, a lot of checks and balances in this system so that you don't ruin your beautiful syrup.
Traditional method is to watch your syrup drape off your ladle. When it gets ready, it'll apron across. And
so it's not quite ready.
It's near ready right there, but not quite.
And then the other way, well, there's this little gauge. Will also tell us if the syrup is thick enough. I'm a new syrup maker, so I have to try everything at least. Oh, there it is. The red line is right above the surface.
If it gets a little bit, that's slightly heavy, we can thin it out.
Oh, by taking
putting a little thinner syrup in with the other.
Oh, I see.
That gives you your checks and balance system, and you make sure in the end you have the right finished product.
And this is the finished syrup in this bucket here. And where does that go then?
It goes through the hose to a big pump, which puts it through a big filter press.
Oh, so that's how it's getting clarified.
Yeah, it goes through at boiling temperature, and all the sediment or anything that might be in there is taken out.
How long would it take for this great big vat to boil off?
Around 600 gallons of sap an hour, maybe. It takes us 2 hours to fill a 30-gallon drum full of syrup.
Now we can go over and look at the filter press.
This is our filter press here, and the syrup is pumped out of our bucket on the other side of the arch.
So it's coming through this tube?
Yes. And it goes through the hot press, and that cleans it right up. We can run 80 to 100 gallons of syrup through, and then we have to break it down, clean it. We come out with our finished product.
Wow, looks good. There's a very beautiful syrup, crystal clear, very light, and it tastes the best I've ever had. Well, for a long time, I've wanted to make maple cream and maple sugar. And today, inspired by lots of questions, and one in particular from Karen Smith in Anchorage, Alaska, we've decided to invite the expert sugar maker and cream maker, Don Harlow here from Putney, Vermont. Now, Don, you don't know that I have a great history in Putney, Vermont, do you?
No.
Yeah, well, my ex-husband went to Putney School, and my daughter went to high school at the Putney School.
Oh, great.
So we know we've probably seen your farm, and it's a beautiful place. And how many gallons of maple syrup do you make a year?
Well, of course, Martha, the sugar season varies from year to year, but we make around 3,000 gallons.
And you turn some of that, how much, into maple cream?
By golly, maple cream is a popular product. We make a lot of it.
You do. Well, show us how, and your special recipe, which is not too difficult, and explain exactly what maple cream is.
Well, this batch, of course, is finished, and I was handed here to show.
Okay. Just to cool it down.
It's easy to do. You find a pot that will hold 2 cups of maple syrup.
Doesn't that look good to spoon on a piece of bread? Or dribble over a piece of spice cake. Wouldn't that be great? So 2 cups of syrup?
2 cups of syrup.
2 cups of that liquid gold that you work so hard to produce up there with the help of those beautiful maple trees in Putney.
Right.
Do you have great stand of maple trees?
Yes, we do, and we take care of them. They're our farm and they're our income. And we're going to put the 2 cups of syrup in the pan.
How old's the oldest tree on your property?
450 years old. Sap was taken from it by the early Indians.
Really?
So
Putney has, if you haven't been up to that part of Vermont, it's in southeast eastern Vermont, and it is one of the most beautiful of the rural towns in Vermont, right up there in the Green Mountains.
Martha, could you put just a little milk in here for me?
Okay, like how much?
Just a quarter of a teaspoon would be
that's
fine.
all.
That's
Okay.
all.
Quarter.
And the reason for the milk, the syrup will boil over in your kitchen on the stove. With the fat there, the bubbles stay down, and it won't boil over on the floor or on the stove.
Oh, okay.
And then we, of course, take a thermometer.
Now, where'd you get this giant?
Well,
this is a special candy thermometer.
that's a thermometer that's made for maple sugars.
It is,
sugar
because it
makers.
says maple cakes, hard sugar, cream, water, and boils.
Yep.
So it boils at 212 degrees, just like water.
Yep. Water and sap will boil the same.
Oh, they
Correct.
do? Okay.
Yep.
And then to make cream, it looks like 232 degrees. Is that right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And I would like to talk about the thermometer a little bit. The red thermometer comes up. We have tested this in a pot of water at, like you said, at 212, and we adjust this little gadget to make sure that it's perfect.
Oh, I see.
In fact, at sea level where we are, it's quite different.
So it's right at 200 and...
219 is syrup.
Oh, okay. So you have this adjusted.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we adjust that to make sure it's proper.
At the right altitude.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then as we watch the thermometer and the syrup begins to boil, it'll get up to where the mark that says syrup, and then we boil it probably 10 or 12 minutes until the thermometer reaches the point of what we want to make, which this morning is maple cream.
Okay, so here's one that's already been boiling. Should we just transfer so we get it closer to the finished product?
Great.
And we'll finish this one off a little later. Okay, if you want to move that pan, watch out for your arm. Oops. Okay, we'll just leave that one here. And this one should be close to it, don't you think?
I would say so from the looks of the bubbles.
So this one is now... Oh, that's
It
rising
takes a second for it to get up there.
Quickly.
Yeah. Martha, you're going to be a good sugar maker.
Well, I love this. So we're all the way up to syrup.
Yes, and even higher
And now
than
it's going,
that.
it's going, and you can just keep seeing that red line of the thermometer. It's going up to, it's halfway to cream now.
Great. So we have a few more minutes.
Yes.
And as you can see, the pan isn't boiling over. It's because of the milk that you
That
put.
work for everything? Or
It
just...
works for all sugars and
Oh.
probably some other products, but mainly if you're making a confection, the fat keeps the bubbles down.
That is a very handy little good thing, we call it.
And we don't have to use milk. You can use the fat of your choice.
Okay, so this is getting there. Now, we can't make this any hotter than that, so it's about 3 degrees from 232 right now.
Okay.
It's getting up there. Now, it has to reach the right temperature.
Yes, it has to get up to 232.
Now, when did you start making sugar and cream from maple syrup?
My mother made it back in the 30s, way years ago, and our farm has made it ever since.
Now, what's the name of your farm?
Harlow's Sugar House.
If I come up to Putney, I can find you and come to your sugar house?
You sure can.
And can you watch the sugaring process?
Oh, yes,
Oh, wonderful.
definitely.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Oh, here we are.
We ready?
Getting right there to 232. So you remove this from the heat.
Okay. If you hold the thermometer
Right
over there,
Okay.
I'll pour the syrup while it's still bubbling
Okay.
into this pan that has been in the ice, and we'll cool this syrup very quickly.
So no more milk.
No more milk.
Oh, see, I thought cream had milk in it or
Nope.
cream in it.
No, it's the term cream comes from the fact that it's creamy and you can spread it on your English muffins. And this syrup cannot be moved while it's cooling. If we touch it with a spoon or a thermometer, or if we jiggle it, and my mother used to scold us boys when we ran through the back room because it would make her pan that she had set to cool. Shake. And sugar crystals form on the top of it.
I see.
And then it
So
won't
leave
make maple cream.
Okay,
We
now
leave it.
this one has been cooled.
That one's been cooled.
Now, is that enough? Cooled enough?
The way to tell if it's cold enough, Martha, is put the back of your hand over the top of it and see if there's any heat radiating off it.
None that I can see.
So it's perfect.
Okay, and no sugar crystals.
No, boy, that looks great.
Okay, so now what do we do?
Now we'll stir it with a wooden spoon.
See, these are the secrets that no recipe can even begin to explain.
And you'll notice that this is
Almost
real
solid.
taffy now.
Yes,
See?
amazing. Just by raising the temperature to 232. Oh,
Yeah.
it is. It's like taffy.
Yeah, and then especially around the outside where it's been sitting next to the ice, it's real thick. If it just, it's real, almost like taffy. But this one you must stir it with a spoon because, in fact, after you've stirred it a few minutes, it'll begin to loosen up and get almost flowable, and it'll begin to turn white. And finally, it'll lose its gloss, and then it's been stirred enough.
And this is what it turns out to be. this very beautiful maple cream. And I'm going to try this on a piece of toast, if you don't mind.
And I might just say, Martha, that the flavor of butter is very complementary to the flavor of maple. So at home, when we have English muffins or toast, we like butter on it, but it isn't necessary. You like it?
Tastes like a combination of butter and maple sugar.
Great. Isn't that wonderful?
You have to do this by hand? You cannot do it with a
You
mixer?
can do it in a mixer, in
You
a
can.
KitchenAid mixer at a very low, slow speed, about like I'm doing with the wooden spoon.
And we store it in a cover jar like this?
Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. And the fun to put it in that jar is to take some and do it with a spatula.
Oh, I can't do it like this?
Well, you can, I guess. But sometimes when the batch comes out a little bit thicker, if you butter it in the jar and get all the air bubbles out of it, and you got a pretty jar of maple cream for a Christmas gift or from
Guess
some
what?
other occasion.
For right now gift.
Look
I'm
at that.
not saving this for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to have this for breakfast or
I got to keep
whatever.
stirring this
yeah,
one.
You stir. Well, thank you very much, Don,
Well,
for
I'm real proud to be able to come here and show you
this very
Vermont maple cream.
simple and elegant recipe. You can enjoy maple cream in lieu of butter or preserves. Just remember that. And when we come back, Don's going to show us how to make maple sugar.
Great, thank you.
Great. Don Harlow is back with us to show us how to make melt-in-your-mouth maple candies. And you can make them in all different sizes and shapes. And we're going to make some maple buckets.
Great.
Sap buckets, right?
Fantastic.
Well, just show us the recipe, because, oh, this one's boiling away over here. Do you think it's going to boil over?
I'll put a little milk in it or fat, Martha, and then it'll go right down.
Okay. So just a little bit.
A little dab.
Oh.
Yep.
Excellent. So when you're boiling maple syrup, we need to start a new one over here.
Okay.
So let's just show them the whole recipe from scratch.
All right, 2 cups of fancy maple syrup.
And I'm going to eat maple sugar while
Fancy
I watch.
is the grade, of course.
Do you make all different grades on your farm?
Yep. And pour the syrup in a saucepan that's deep enough.
And you want a 1/4 teaspoon of milk in here, too?
Yes, we do. Without the milk or the
I can do that.
fat
I
of
can
the
do it
choice.
just without even
Great.
thinking.
Without that, the syrup will boil over on the stove. Then we use the thermometer, of course.
And so we start with syrup, cream, sugar, hard sugar,
Yeah.
and cake. So we're going to make hard sugar?
Yes, we are going to make hard sugar.
So that's what, 240?
242.
Oh, 242.
Yeah.
It's 232 and 242. Just
Easy to
remember that.
remember.
Okay, 232 for cream and 242 for these beautiful little candies. These are
Okay.
so good.
And the reason the sugar goes to 242 versus the 232, the product is different. It's a grain candy that's got crystals in it. The maple cream is smooth without crystals.
You want to try this one and see what
Well,
the
let's try
temperature
that
is?
one and see
Yeah, we'll do
where-
our little swap out.
Okay,
And,
can you see that, Martha?
This one is rising rather rapidly here. It's going up to, we're all the way up to syrup, on the way to cream. There we go, beyond cream.
Mm-hmm.
So we're 230, 235, and we're almost there.
Great.
230, 240, 242. There we are.
Heavens, that's
okay,
perfect.
Right away, very quickly.
Okay. And now this, while it's still hot, we'll let the bubbles go down so
Okay.
that it won't stir.
Now, do
a
you
lot.
do these in graping vats up at the farm?
No, we do it. We're a farm,
small-
and we
in
do
small
it in
pots?
kind of. It's we use 2 gallons instead of 2 cups
Oh, okay.
in a batch. Some of the big confection
Do you
people.
cook over wood for this too?
No, we use a gas steam kettle.
Well, after the Howigan farm...
Oh, you've
where-
been spoiled.
Yeah, we had a really wonderful time cooking all the sap down over wood.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And now we're going to come and visit you up in Putney and see how things happen up at the Harlow farm.
So I must start stirring this, and
So it already is a much thicker and cloudy consistency than maple cream.
the other one we cooled. The other one, meaning the maple cream,
Right.
we cooled way down to the warmth of your hand, and maple sugar we stir it while it's hot. It's beginning to form.
Now, is this what we put over snow, for maple snow?
No, you use the maple cream temperature for snow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this one is...
we'll put all this on the website, so don't you worry about this.
No, it's very simple. The two things, as Martha mentioned, is 232 for cream and 242 for sugar.
And 232 for sugar on snow.
Sugar on snow, right. When maple syrup's made in Vermont, it's made in the spring, of course, and mud and sugar go together.
They sure do. We learned that at the Hourigan farm. I'm still cleaning my shoes.
Yep. So you're well aware of it.
And my socks and my jacket. I was behind the horses in the sledge.
Yeah.
And the horses' hooves just, I wasn't even noticing, but I got off. My whole jacket was covered with mud, and my face.
So you've been indoctrinated.
Oh, I certainly.
But the mud and the sugar go together. My wife used to say, when sugaring started, she put the broom back in the closet and get out a shovel. So
that bad.
Then we knew sugar was here. And which reminds me of another story. The little groundhog in Pennsylvania thinks he knows when spring's here. Bob Horrigan and Don Harlow know when spring's here because we've gone to tap our maple trees. And they say spring's coming, they're tapping their maple trees. So there's lots of fun things about it.
And I think that is a really good symbol to follow. So working quickly, you're stirring and stirring, and it's starting to do what it's supposed to do, isn't it?
I think it's starting, and I think maybe just one more story, and we'll be ready to...
I think it's the storytelling that's more appealing to you than the actual stirring of the maple sugar.
Well, the one more story, Martha, is, and you like this one, because my grandmother made homemade raised donuts, and when we came home on the school bus, and we could see the steam coming out of the sugar house, we put the two together, we'd run in and get the donuts, and run down in the woods and put the first maple syrup on the raised donuts. So I think we're ready. Can you help me?
Yep, I'm just testing this so I don't get it too hot. So, okay, what do you want me to do?
I want you to pour that.
Oh, I'll pour that into the mold?
Yes,
okay,
please.
I'll do that. Want to test this one?
I better.
I'll just do this, and you do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now...
And of course, you don't need a rubber mold at home.
But these rubber molds are great.
Oh, of course.
So you can get these rubber molds at cake decorating stores, and where else can you get them? Can you get them at your farm?
Yep. But if you use a little frilly design, the sugar will harden in any form or shape that you pour it into.
So you can make larger ones in little muffin tins.
Sure.
Yeah, and use a Teflon though.
But it'll pop out of most anything.
Oh, look how nicely it pours. It's just perfect.
Boy, you are good at maple.
I like all this stuff.
And we cooked that batch just right. And here we have some designs we did earlier.
Aren't they nice?
A star, and as you can see, a heart.
What's your favorite
Well,
shape?
heavens, I like the heart. There, look at that. That's perfect.
What about maple sugar leaves?
Great.
I like those.
So
I'll just use up the rest.
Perfect. You can scrape it a little bit. I got one more story while you're finishing.
Okay.
In the pot, there's some sugar left. And we kids always scraped it out because every single drop of maple sugar or maple syrup is 40 drips of sap. 40 gallons of sap make 1 gallon of syrup.
And so one drip
so
equals
we like
40.
to save it.
Oh, well, I wouldn't throw that away for anything. You couldn't persuade me to. That'll settle down, won't it?
It sure will.
Well, thank you yet again for a wonderful lesson. You're a great teacher.
Well, heavens, I think.
I'm going to pop out a candy for you. You can taste your wares here. And these pop out, you can see from these rubber molds, into the perfect little sap bucket.
That's great. Well, thank you.
I'll test that. No, we're not there yet. We're only up to syrup.
Well, isn't that great?
And I'll wait for this syrup to turn into sugar. Thanks, Don, so much for coming down to our studio. Don came all the way from Putney, Vermont to make this delicious treat.
Well, thank you. I was
and thank
pleased
your
to be
son
here.
for bringing you too.
Great, I will.
It was worth it to us so much. You'll never know.
Well, thank you. Can I have a bite?
Please, that's for you. All this. Tastes good?
Sure.
Made out of that Harlow syrup.
Thank you.